depression, not a recession, depression by the year 2030. We could be in a perfect storm if Social Security and Medicare hit a breaking point with the largest generation hitting retirement. Smaller workforce usually means a smaller tax base. Pair that with our growing national debt and rising cost of living, we could have a really, really big problem. So what are you doing now to protect your family for the future? Well, gold has been a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. Help protect your future today. Text Dan to 989898. Get your free info kit on gold and a copy of the Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, only information. I buy my gold from Birch Gold. You can trust them too. Text my name, Dan, to the number 989898 today. Message and data rates apply. First up today, we talk with Senator Mike Lee about Kash Patel, the FBI, 702 reforms, the FISA court, spying on Americans. This is a really great segment. Check this out. All right, welcoming back to the show, Senator from the amazing, beautiful, wonderful state of Utah. If you've never been there, some of the most incredible scenery on earth. Our good friend, Senator Mike Lee. Senator, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Good to be with you as always.
Always. So I was watching some of your back and forth with nominee for FBI director, Mr. Kash Patel, and I thought you had one of the better exchanges in a day of, unfortunately, a bunch of embarrassing exchanges between Democrats and Kash about songs and other things. We're in a serious time with serious threats. There's no time for nonsense. But you brought up a very serious topic you and I have chatted about before, and I certainly talk about my audience a lot, and that is Section 702, FISA spying, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And in the exchange with Kash Patel, you expressed some very deep concerns about abuses in this system. Were you assured by nominee Patel yesterday, you appeared to be, that this system is going to get cleaned up and the abuses will stop if he does become director of the FBI?
Yes, I've received assurances from Kash Patel in that exchange yesterday and on other occasions. He understands the problem. He understands that it's a big problem when we incidentally collect conversations of American citizens, store it in a database, and then allow FBI agents to go in and perform a search, searching for a known U.S. citizen, to listen to conversations they may have had unwittingly with somebody who's under surveillance as either an agent of a foreign power or otherwise. And this is something that the foreign intelligence state, the military-industrial complex, doesn't like to acknowledge, but it's a big problem. It's happened hundreds of thousands of times. That ought to require a warrant because the Constitution requires nothing less.
Yeah. Senator, and I find the arguments against this, particularly in the Wall Street Journal op-ed column yesterday, they are all for FISA spying. I find the arguments against it very unpersuasive. One of them they bring up often is, well, you don't really know what you're looking for while you're fishing around in there. Yeah, general warrants, one of the reasons we had an American Revolution. Like, you're not just, we need a warrant for what? I don't know, something, we'll figure it out. That's not the way the Constitution works, Senator. It was not designed, the Constitution, to be a suggestion in your personal effects, in your conversations, and your data. I mean, that is not a persuasive argument at all.
No, it's not. And you're exactly right to compare it to general warrants. I talked about that in a book I wrote about a decade ago called Our Lost Constitution. General warrants were used about the time of the American Revolution. They were used abusively by King George III and his government. They would basically go out and say, you have permission to go out and find evidence of a crime. Have fun. Good luck. That's not how it's supposed to work. And that's exactly why we adopted the Fourth Amendment, was to protect against things like this. Now, one of the things that they do, one of the things that they say in order to try to get around this, they try to cloud the issue by saying, look, all we're doing is going after agents of foreign powers, not American citizens. Well, technically true, and that's what FISA 702 is focused on. Sometimes once they collect something, incidentally, that happens to be from a U.S. person, an American citizen or lawful permanent resident, they will go in and search for that person on the database without a warrant. That's the problem, and that's the problem they like to overlook. The next phase of their defense usually involves something like this. they'll say, in essence, don't worry about it. We've got good policies and good people in place at the FBI, so this sort of thing doesn't happen. We don't do it without a good reason. Well, I've been hearing that for over a decade, and they're lying. They do it anyway. That's why we need a requirement in there that they get a warrant before searching for the private communications of a U.S. person.
We're talking to Senator Mike Lee from Utah. Senator, I know you don't need it, and that's certainly not why you come on, but I just want to applaud you for being one of the few, and there are, sadly, just a few people up on Capitol Hill, Rand Paul being another, willing to speak out against this. You're obviously a very, very good lawyer and attorney yourself, and you understand that most of this stuff is nonsense. I don't want to beat this up. I got a ton of things, but one more quick thing on this. Another argument they use that is unbelievably unpersuasive, you know, even Charlie Brown Encyclopedia Law 101, is, well, what if there's an emergency? There are already emergency exceptions to the warrant requirement. Did you go to law school? The warrant requirement is not ironclad in stone. There's hot pursuit things. There's all kinds of rules with regards to vehicles. There's Terry versus Ohio about when you can frisk someone. There are already thousands of these. And Senator, as a federal agent who's actually done this type of stuff, I assure you, and you know as well as I do, if you have a ticking time bomb scenario, there is a magistrate on duty who can authorize a warrant over the phone in, I hate literally this word, but in minutes, in just minutes. The time it takes you to turn on the computer, I promise you, you can get a telephone authorization to search this stuff.
That's exactly right. You know this as a former federal agent. I know this as a former federal prosecutor. You can get a warrant. Yes, it takes a little bit of extra time, but not that much. And yes, there are also built-in exceptions to the Fourth Amendment jurisprudence in this area, exigent circumstances among them. So that under limited circumstances, you can get around it. But absent those unusual circumstances, you've got to get a warrant. Now, it's understandable that they, like all law enforcement everywhere, would probably prefer on some ways not to have to do it unless they love the Constitution. They can imagine a world being easier in which they don't have to. But that doesn't mean it's not important. And that doesn't mean that they're not compelled to follow the Constitution. And that's not too much to ask. Some of my colleagues in the Senate are so concerned about FISA 702 that they're willing to sacrifice the Fourth Amendment. That's gone on too long, and we've got to stop it.
Yeah, talking to Senator Mike Lee. Senator, let's move on to some other items. This election was a mandate. The left-wing media can say whatever they'd like. We won every single swing state. We won seats in Pennsylvania, areas where, I mean, let's be honest, that was a tough haul. Pennsylvania's a great state. We've been doing great there. But it's not a red state. It's a purple state trending in our direction. We did very well. The House, we probably could have done a little better. However, significant gerrymandering, Eric Holder's group, it hurt us, and everybody knows that. But we did well. If that wasn't a mandate, then nothing's a mandate. This is not the time to do small things. Donald Trump is proposing some big, bold ideas. He doesn't care if it's one or two reconciliation packages. Personally, I do. I think one is a better idea. I think the momentum is there to do it. But do you sense in a Senate populated with, sadly, a lot of people we both know are in that squishy middle, do you sense the momentum is there to do big transformative things on the border, on tax policy, on the income tax, on tariffs, on national security? Because if there was ever a time, this is it.
You're exactly right. This is the time. We cannot assume that we'll have another chance to do this. It's not very common that the Republican Party has control of the House and the Senate and the White House all at the same time. And although we hope and expect to be able to buck this trend, historically, it usually lasts for only 2 years at a time when it does occur. And so we've got to get this done now. Typically what that means is that within a 2-year period, you've got to get most of it done, nearly all of it, in the first year of that, because then it's an election year again after that. So we've got to do it this year and through reconciliation. And I'm with you, Dan. I don't care quite as much whether it's one bill, two bills, or three bills. We do have to get aggressive with reconciliation. And that means carrying out the legislative end of the DOGE agenda, which is to say to somewhat significantly reduce federal spending and disempower the deep state, cut down on the administrative bureaucracy, and pass regulatory reforms like the REINS Act, which would simply require Congress to adopt federal regulations before they take effect. We've had too many federal regulators, unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats, being able to make federal law to the tune of 100,000 pages a year, every single year. That's wrong, and it's contrary to what our Constitution requires.
We're talking to Senator Mike Lee. I love the REINS Act. You and I have discussed it on the show, excuse me, quite a bit. I really hope that is part of any package. But Senator, here is my beef with two or three reconciliation packages. And folks, reconciliation is simple. It's a 10-year window, and if it involves budget items, you don't need to overcome the filibuster. A simple majority in the Senate works. That's just the Reader's Digest version of what we're talking about here. Obviously tough because we only have 53 seats. We don't have enough right now to overcome the filibuster. But my issue with it is this. Obviously, the way our system, our federalist system, which is a great system, they're good and bad. The good part is there are a lot of parochial interests. New York doesn't get to dictate Wisconsin foreign policy. The bad part, Senator, there are a lot of parochial interests. So it's hard to do things nationally. If you do 2 or even 3 reconciliation bills, you know as well as I do, somebody is going to come out and go, I need my ethanol. Someone else is going to come out and go, I need my salt deduction. And they're going to make a big stink about it. You pour all this into one big thing. Donald Trump goes out and does rallies and marshals the masses like you and I know only he can do. All of a sudden, you know, the old Reagan thing, they may not see the light, but they're going to feel the heat. And everybody's going to say, I didn't get everything I wanted, but I got this. And I think the public would understand, and the momentum and the media coverage alone be worth 2 or 3 points in the national polls. I personally see it as, maybe I'm misreading it. I'm not up there, but I think it's a big mistake. And, I get a lot of feedback from the listeners. They feel the same way.
I couldn't agree more. And look, a number of us are working behind the scenes to put together proposals that could be put forward in 1, 2, or 3 bills, regardless of what it is, but a list of things that have to be accomplished. And when people talk about the need to make sure that we can win the next election cycle, I can tell you the very, very best thing we could do for that purpose, even if that was our only purpose, would be to pass something that meaningfully downsizes federal spending, meaningfully reforms the federal government, and meaningfully takes a bite out of the federal regulatory process to put the American people and their elected lawmakers back in charge of making law as the Constitution has ordained. If we do that, I can pretty much guarantee that will do more for our electoral process, for our prospects moving forward of Republicans winning difficult races than anything else we can do.
Yeah. Talking to Senator Mike Lee, a great follow, by the way, on X. It's a real account, by the way, @based Mike Lee. I promise it's worth your time. Jim and I use it often for show content. It's fantastic. @based Mike Lee. Senator, last question. You're up there, obviously, in the United States Senate. You're working every day. You know your colleagues better than we do. Do you sense any of these nominees in trouble? I'm not up there like you are. I think from what I've heard from friends of ours, like Cash looks okay. Look, I don't want to get ahead of myself. But do you sense any trouble on the horizon? I saw Susan Collins kind of surprised me yesterday with positive comments about Tulsi Gabbard. I got to tell you, I didn't see that one coming.
Well, I was thrilled to hear it. Look, Susan keeps her counsel. She keeps her cards close. She does her homework. And I think after she heard from some of these nominees, including Tulsi Gabbard, she, like so many other Americans, looks at that favorably. From what I understand, it's been a favorable development for her, and I'm thrilled to hear that. I was thrilled at Kash Patel's success yesterday in the Senate Judiciary Committee, and I think he has won over the Republican senators by and large. I can't speak for everybody, but it looks good for him. I'm also very, very determined to see RFK Jr. get confirmed to head HHS. I know he faced a tough battle in his committee hearings this week, but he handled them well. So as those who support these nominees, those are the 3 nominees who face the toughest fights right now. As people from around the country express their views on this and express their support, I think more and more senators will come along, hopefully from both parties.
Good. That's good to hear. I mean, you're up there. Nobody has their finger on the pulse better than you. Senator Mike Lee from Utah, an absolutely gorgeous state, folks. You got to visit sometime. You don't know what you're missing out on. Check it out. Senator, thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
You got it. Folks, I'm telling you, Utah, I kid you not, an absolutely amazing state. Their state parks. And if you ever get the time, I went there with President Bush when I was an agent back in the day. The Stein Eriksen Lodge, absolutely amazing. I'm not a skier, but I went there on a work trip. Incredible. Just a beautiful, beautiful state. Let's get to our next sponsor. But up next, we talked with Devin Nunes. Talked about a lot of different things. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my favorite supplements. It's actually the staple of my supplement agenda. What is Field of Greens first? It is healthy, wholesome, organic fruits and vegetables. You know, we don't always have time to eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. Ground up into this delicious tasting powder. It's a small scoop. I like the wild berry, this lemon lime. You put it in whatever beverage you like. Protein shakes, I put it in green tea. I love it. It's delicious. A glass of Field of Greens daily is like nutritional armor for your body. The fruits and vegetables were selected by a doctor who works there. There's a heart health group, lung and kidney groups, metabolism. I love the energy I get with Field of Greens. I've shown you my blood work since I've been taking it. It's delicious. It's the nutrition my body needs daily to function at a high level. And only Field of Greens makes you a better health promise. Your doctor will notice your improved health or your money back. Let me get you started with my special discount. I got you 20% off your first order. It's big savings. Order Field of Greens today. Just use code DAN at brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. That's code DAN at brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Up next, we talk with Devin Nunes about the appointment of very specific people in positions at the CIA and FBI because people are policy. Listen to this. It's important. You know, we need to talk to this gentleman more. He was, I don't say this lightly either. I know, Producer Jim, you would definitely disagree with this agree with this one. When the real history of what happened with the weaponization of government is hopefully written by sane people in the future, not through the lens of a left-wing analyst, this guy should get like the Presidential Medal of Freedom for everything he did to expose the collusion hoax and Spygate. Former Congressman, current head of Truth Social, an excellent social media platform, Devin Nunes. Devin, welcome back to the show. Good to have you.
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
It's great to talk to you again. And I meant what I said. I don't know if you heard that in the beginning in the intro, but everything you and Kash Patel and others and Michael Ellis and people like that did to expose the collusion hoax, really, I don't think the full story's been told. I know Lee Smith's done a good job in his books, but I appreciate that. And that's why I want to have you on today, because there are a lot of unsung heroes out there in the exposing of the collusion hoax and the spying scandal on Donald Trump. And one of them is a guy you and I both know. Obviously, I'm an investor in Rumble, so I'm pretty familiar with the personnel. But Michael Ellis, who's just been appointed deputy director of the CIA under John Ratcliffe, who's fantastic, the confirmed director of the CIA now. He's one of those guys. And Devin, you know as well as anyone, personnel, people are policy. Unfortunately, policy isn't policy. People are policy. We need good people in there.
That's right, Dan. And, I started working with Michael Ellis back in, 2011-12 timeframe when he started as a deputy general counsel on the House Intelligence Committee. And then I promoted him when I became the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. I promoted him to be the general counsel. We worked on numerous investigations, including, but not limited to, Benghazi. You may remember the whole debacle where they lied about, the Obama administration lied about the war in Iraq and Afghanistan. We worked on that investigation, actually the China investigation with Huawei. So we spent a lot of time together. He became my general counsel and then transitioned over to the White House and worked in the first Trump administration and was really instrumental there in bringing, like sanity when everybody's running around with their heads cut off, when the Mueller investigation was going on and McCabe was dropping in on General Flynn. Michael Ellis was there. He was steady. He gave good advice to the president in the White House. And I think had they listened to him more, there would have been less problems back in the first Trump administration. But yeah. I will say this, Dan, and this was not a lot of people know this, but President Trump appointed Michael Ellis to be the general counsel of the NSA. And Nakasone the admiral put him. This will ring a bell. So he was the director of NSA. He went in and created a phony investigation, a fake investigation. Sound familiar? And Michael Ellis went under this bullshit investigation, and then he lost that opportunity to be the general counsel of the NSA because of deep state tricks. Now, look, in the end, it worked out well for Rumble, and it worked out well for free speech because he's been just a stalwart over there defending Rumble around the globe against the people who want to kill free speech, which is, by the way, how you and I kind of got to know each other, was not just the Russia hoax, but also our early involvement in Rumble and True Social.
You were talking to former Congressman, current head of True Social, Devin Nunes, an American hero with regards to this collusion Spygate hoax. It's you and I, were chatting during the inauguration. We were at the Rumble event. And I had actually forgotten some of how you and I had met through this fight for free speech. But you and I were pretty viciously censored on multiple left-wing platforms. And I think that's why you and I are so passionate, you at True Social and me and as investor in Rumble and other places earlier, against this topic. But I want you to address, if you could, the initial portion of the question was kind of more of a statement. But Devin, we live in supposedly what is a constitutional republic. But I think you and I, having seen what we've seen, both agree that the Constitution it wasn't meant to be a suggestion. It was meant to be the governing document. This is how we're going to roll. But that's not the country we live in anymore. I wish we did. Donald Trump's moving us back in that direction. But things like the collusion hoax, the spying operation on Donald Trump, the FBI's war on Moms for Liberty, pro-life activists, MAGA hat wearers, the student loan debacle under Biden, spending money wasn't authorized. People are the policy. If you don't have people in there who use the Constitution as their lodestar, like Kash Patel, like Michael Ellis, like John Ratcliffe, then sadly the Constitution's like a four-way stop sign. You stop once in a while, but maybe sometimes you just roll right through it because the other guy will do it. And that's what really troubles me most about where we are.
And the beauty of having, you mentioned those three names, Ratcliffe and Kash Patel and Michael Ellis, is, we all worked together back during even before the Russiagate days, we worked together. So they saw firsthand, all of them, all three of those guys understand firsthand what it's like to get not only your First Amendment rights stripped away, but watch others be stripped away, and then then be accused of false allegations. And so all three of those gentlemen are going to do a great job, I think, working with Attorney General Pam Bondi. And then, of course, I think but the president has appointed me as the outside counsel to be the chairman of his intelligence board.
Yes.
I think all of us together will be able to, if anybody can do it, if anybody's seen bad things, it's us. And I think the president's put the right team in place to do what we can to smash, really, I hate to say this, but the cockroaches within our own government.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you were appointed to that intelligence advisory position, given your history in exposing, deep state actors in the intel community. Congressman, now head of True Social, Devin Nunes, we both agree we need to make the FBI great again. We need to make the CIA great again. But they have a mission. They've strayed from that mission. And the issue with the CIA and global intelligence communities working to politically attack Donald Trump is that there's an opportunity cost to that, Congressman. You understand economics as well as anyone. When you're wasting your time investigating MAGA hat wearers as the FBI or CIA in an 8-hour workday, you're not spending that time going after the guy who just ran down people in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl. We both agree on that, that we need these entities to function correctly, but they've far strayed off their course.
Yeah, and here's what really has happened, starting with Obama, and maybe you could even be critical of the Bush-Cheney administration because they were so focused on the war on terror in Afghanistan and Iraq that the power in the FBI and CIA really became centralized in Washington, D.C., more so than ever. And then, of course, with Obama, it got put on steroids. And so it became part of the culture. And I'm sure you saw that in your old role with the Secret Service. The culture moved to Washington, D.C., and New York City. It became, in that kind of corridor between Washington and New York, and anyone who wanted to be someone had to do time in Washington, D.C., and then you become essentially serving those masters that everything reports to there. And that's going to be the toughest role that I think both with the Trump CIA and Trump FBI will be to refocus, to get people out of Washington, D.C. and back out in the field. I mean, I spent a lot of time overseas, working with, just the different intelligence agencies. And I will tell you, the people that are overseas, for the most part, are phenomenal. They're patriots, they're warriors, they dedicate their lives to our country, they put themselves in harm's way. And that doesn't mean that the people that are in Washington, D.C. doing very important work, also analytic work, are not important. But when you just weigh it, when you look at the scale, you just can't get in a position where you have just sheer numbers, Dan. You have more people in Washington, D.C. than you do outside in the field. And that's for both, that's for sure the CIA, the FBI. I don't remember the exact numbers, but there's just been a focus on having people in Washington, and over time, that's going to corrupt itself, and you're going to be able to begin serving masters like a Comey and a McCabe and these people, because everybody's trying to get their next promotion by being in Washington, D.C., instead of the opposite. Like you said, it should be the people that actually bust the terrorists that went to New Orleans, or is helping to secure the border, or is over doing very difficult work in the Middle East. Those are the types of people that we need to reward. And I know it's Cash has been criticized for saying that I think he was just being sarcastic, saying he wanted to make the FBI building into a museum of the deep state. But what the left didn't pay attention to is that what he's saying has some real importance, which is, why are we building a brand new FBI building and we're going to house more people in Washington, D.C.? And, when I was chairman of the Intelligence Committee, I did everything I could to stop the growth of the DNI, where Tulsi Gabbard is hopefully going to be approved. Dan, that was supposed to be originally. I was there in Congress when we originally started that program. It was supposed to be essentially a board that sets budgets, that looks at things at a high level. And, I thought at the most that it would have, 50 staff people and maybe 100, maybe you get up to 150, 200 people. I think that thing swelled to like 2,000 people now. And look, I oversaw this for many, many years. And Dan, I don't know what they're doing, and I oversaw it. I was providing not oversight, I didn't run it, but I was providing oversight from the legislative branch of government as chairman of the Intelligence Committee. I just don't know how it got so big, so fast, and that's what I think the Trump administration is going to have to get a handle on. And of course, in my role chairing the intelligence board to the president, we will give either concurring or differing views upon what the intelligence officials are saying.
Congressman Nunes, now head of True Social. I only have a minute left, but just a quick comment on USAID. This has been used largely as a deep state slush fund. Is that why the left is freaking out over this?
Well, if you go back, there's been the waste has been horrendous over the years. But what I think happened over the last 4 years during Biden, no surprise, is like everything else, Dan. You give an inch and they take a mile. And Biden was so asleep, so at the switch, and so corrupt over a lifetime that anything went. And I think once you start to peel that back, you're going to see a lot of wasted money, and a lot of money that was being wired to left-wing causes, and which is why I'm really happy. I never thought about just removing the head of USAID and putting it under the Secretary of State, which is probably where it belongs.
Yeah, and I mean, the 1998 legislation under Clinton's pretty clear that the Secretary of State's prerogatives should dictate USAID and where their money's going and what they're doing. So they're going to have a tough legal fight. I'm not saying an activist judge won't hurt us on this, but it's not as cut and dried as the left wants you to believe. Devin Nunes, you're doing a great job at True Social. Everybody needs to go and start an account today. Congratulations on that appointment. I know you'll give amazing advice to President Trump. We really appreciate your service to the country. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure, Dan. Great to see you in Washington, and great to be during the inauguration, and hopefully see you soon.
Indeed. Likewise, sir. Appreciate it. Devin Nunes. I spent some time with him up at the Rumble gathering during the inauguration, and we were reminiscing, and I'm telling you, I'm not making that up. I had actually forgotten some of the details about some of the stuff me and him did to fight for free speech. And I know that sounds self-celebratory, so forgive me. I don't mean to be, but I'm not kidding. He was like, remember we did this? I said, I actually don't even remember that. Another interesting interview's next, but our next sponsor first. Folks, I've been using the Bone Charge infrared sauna blanket, and Paula's been using the red light face mask. I got to tell you, I've been using it too. It helps me fall asleep at night ever since they sent to me. Can't recommend them highly enough. This is a really great company. I just bought some more blue light glasses for upstairs. I kept forgetting mine downstairs. I first turned to the sauna blanket a while ago because of the power of sauna. I encourage you to look it up. It's incredible. It helps me sleep at night as my body tries to cool down. It's great for muscle recovery, detoxification. It's easy to use, the Bone Charge sauna blanket. Just wrap yourself up and let the infrared heat work its magic. I've noticed an absolutely incredible difference with my sleep and my recovery from my workouts, especially at age 50. Got to use every life hack possible. Paula uses the red light face mask. It's incredibly impressive. She's been using it to help improve her skin's texture and reduce inflammation. Look at her pictures on my Instagram. You'll see for yourself. It's like having a mini spa treatment right at home whenever you want it. If you're thinking of trying them out, now's the time. Head on over to bonecharge.com/Bongino, BONCHARGE, and use the code Bongino at checkout to get 15% off. They have a ton of products over there, not just the red light face mask and the sauna blanket, blue light glasses. If you're into life hacks and positive life impacts, this is the site to go to improve your wellness routine. You're going to love this site. Go today. Use code Bongino. You'll save 15% at bonecharge.com/Bongino. BONCHARGE, bonecharge.com/Bongino. Save 15%. These statements and products have not been evaluated by the FDA. They're not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease or condition. Folks, a lot happened in the Middle East this week. Coach Bruce Pearl, the Auburn Tigers, a team I love. He's not only a great coach, but he's very interested in stability in the Middle East, and that's an issue we share in common. We interviewed him about this. We got a lot of great feedback on it. Check this out. So much to talk about with my next guest. Great guy, good friend, amazing basketball coach, patriot, loves his country, and has a real profound interest in world stability and the Middle East issue. So we share a lot in common. Great coach of the Auburn Tigers, my humble opinion, the best coach in the nation, Coach Bruce Pearl. Bruce, welcome back to the show. Good to have you.
Dan, it's great to be back with you. Thank you.
Well, let's get to the serious stuff in a second, but first, congratulations, another big win last night. I ran into you at Neville at the Tennessee game. Coach, I'm just going to tell you, man, I don't know how you do it. I was on edge the entire game. Miles Kelly drains the three with 27 seconds to go. I'm serious, my brother. I almost had a heart attack. You're storming up and down the court for 2 hours. Are you on like some serious blood pressure medication or fish oil? It's like, how do you do this and survive these games?
Yeah, I could endorse Repatha. It's been really good for my bad cholesterol. Dan, I apologize to my friends and to my family because I am taking years off of your life. When you are a sports fan like that and you live and die through all of them, the thrills of victory, the agonies of defeat, and but it was so great to have you last Saturday at the Tennessee game and be up close and personal. See how big these dudes are, how athletic they are,
God.
how physical the game is. And the thing I loved about that game, even though it was only 452-51, and there were people that complained about it being a rock fight and too much holding and too much grabbing, these guys were playing so hard and so physical, and there wasn't 1 ounce of animosity or negativity. The kids respected each other. They respected each other as competitors. And, obviously we made a great offensive play at the end and came away with a great W.
Coach Bruce Pearl, the Auburn Tigers. One last thing, Coach, this is how good this guy is, folks. He says to me before the game, I kid you not, you looked me in the eye. I don't know if you remember this. You said, you were close. We were close enough. You said first team to 60 wins because you knew it was going to be. You remember that? It was close. But I'm like, I said to my wife after the game, I go, damn, that guy's good. He knew that was going to be a defensive struggle. Obviously.
At least I didn't say take the under. I mean, that would have been inappropriate of a coach.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I knew it was going to be a great, great defensive game. And some people just love high scoring and they love the offense. And great teams have got to be able to win playing fast and playing slow because you can't always control the tempo.
You knew it. You nailed it. You said this is going to be a defensive fight, and you knew it. And I tell you, I looked at Paul. I go, man, he's really good at he really understood that. So you're having a great season. Congratulations. But you and I share another thing in common. We care deeply about global affairs and global stability, and especially the issue in the Middle East, which has been hot forever. President Trump shook up the entire foreign policy establishment last night. You heard it. I heard it. I texted you about it this morning. I said, I'd love for you to come on and talk about this. Your initial thoughts about him staking out this position that the U.S. may now have a role in the reconstruction and stability in Gaza. Your first reaction when you heard it?
Dan, my first reaction was simply leadership. Our world of the last 4 years has been void of any worldwide leadership. And those that may have been leading in some areas, whether it been President Xi or Putin or Zelensky or the terrorism, there just was no leadership, and our world was beginning to get more and more dangerous and divided, and we knew that the return of President Trump would be there. I will tell you that there are many people, including the Gulf Arab states right now, who are looking at this and saying this reshaping, this rethinking of things, this sort of a kind of a commonsensical approach. What the people on the left are going to say is, oh my God, how can you move 1.7 million people, and what are you going to do with them, and all these different things? They don't realize right now Gaza is uninhabitable. Right now you cannot live there. So if there is going to be any kind of a rebuild, you've got to do something with the population, because their leadership chose to attack Israel, murder 1,200 people. They were the ones that sort of created this. And so this solves a great deal of problems. But I think what's next is when they start to rebuild it and people invest in it and they see, wealth and prosperity return to that beautiful Lebanon will be next. Others will begin to look at that life and go, you know what? This is way, way better than running around chanting death to Israel and from the river to the sea, and I'm not willing to live in peace, going, you know what? Maybe this is a better way for all of us.
Talking to Coach Bruce Pearl of the Auburn Tigers. Coach, one of the things that's irked me about the situation is I think a lot of people don't understand the negotiating style of Donald Trump. You know him. I know him. You know how he is. He's a spreadsheet guy. He sees a problem and he wants a formula in the spreadsheet to fix it. They have presented him the same formula on the Middle East and everyone else for 50 years. Maybe not him, but everyone. And it hasn't worked, okay? There isn't stability in the Middle East. So he's looking at this going, yeah, Jordanians, you claim you want to fix the Palestinian issue. Why don't you take in the Palestinians? Egypt, why do you have Delphi closed? Why can't you take in some people from Gaza while we reconstruct it? He's a spreadsheet transactional guy, and he's tired of being presented with the same old solutions, which, Coach, if they worked, would be solutions and nothing solved.
You're exactly right, Dan. And here's the thing. I think one of the great things about this leadership is it's not coming from a politician who's worried about what this people will think or this side will think or what this is going to get me another vote or how to stay in power. He is simply there right now to fix the problems and to breathe common sense and breathe truth into reality. And you're right. Since 1948, when there was a war of independence that took place during Israel's creation, the Arabs had an opportunity to get another Palestinian state or another Arab state right next to what was Israel and the Jewish state. And they simply chose not to, and the entire Arab world went to war and attacked Israel. Israel was able to survive that war, but they did not win that war. In Israel right now, Dan, as you know, there are 6 million Jews, and there are 2 million Israeli Arab citizens that have created in 75 years one of the most amazing states in the world, in the history of the world, for how young it is, its innovation, its technology, the things that it's doing, solving problems, medicine, all these different things. The problem was there was 160,000 Arabs in 1948 that decided we're not living as neighbors, and they went to war. People said there was a genocide of those 160,000 Arabs. No, there wasn't. There are now 4 or 5 million of them living in Gaza, living in Judea and Samaria, that have simply chosen a path of not being able to get along with the Jewish state. And I'm telling you right now, yesterday was a bad day for terrorists. Yesterday was a bad day for terrorists all over the world because Donald Trump said, you know what, this isn't going to work. You want to do this? You want to act this way? There are going to be consequences to pay. And rather than us trucking billions of dollars of aid into Gaza and help them build a terrorist society, the rockets are done. The rockets are gone. Israel no longer has to live underneath that threat. And Donald Trump is bringing these solutions not only to the Middle East, but he's going to bring them to so many other parts of areas that need to be rebuilt, like our government and other areas of our foreign policy.
That's right. Talking to Coach Bruce Pearl of the Auburn Tigers. Coach, another thing, another component of this that I think a lot of people are starting to realize today is Donald Trump was clearly trying to refocus all the regional parties there. You have Hamas in the region. The Demon Savages, let's just be candid, got their asses kicked. They thought on October 7th, look what we're going to do. We're going to galvanize the world against Israel. They're going to be isolated. Iran's going to come and help us out. They're going to lob in all these missiles. Israel will be finished. That's not what happened. They completely got their asses kicked. The beepers were blowing nuts off everyone all over. They don't even know. They're down to their 17th layer of leadership right now because everybody's freaking dead. So it didn't work out. But the most incredible thing, and I mean in a negative way in this case, is Hamas still doesn't seem to get it. It's over. You engaged in this terrorist plot. It didn't work out. You've been completely wiped out. I think Donald Trump is just like, hey, I'm in office 2 weeks and I'm already sick of this. You guys are negotiating from a point of not weakness, but you're going to be completely obliterated. If you don't fix it, I'm coming in there, daddy's home, and I'm going to fix it for you, and you will have nothing, including Gaza.
No, and one of the greatest ways to defeat terrorists is to take away their land. And that's the ultimate defeat for this terrorist. And the statements it's making is this doesn't work. This activity absolutely doesn't work. Israel's never started a war with their Arab neighbors, but they've never allowed to actually win one and actually be able to finish one out. I do believe this could be obviously a building block, towards some peace in the region where people say, okay, there's got to be a better way of doing it. Now, I know all the critics are going to come out and say, this is impossible. You can't possibly move all these people out. But the reality on the ground is they can't go back right now, and especially if they're going to go back and try to rebuild. The curtain of this awful, awful, barbaric leadership of Hamas got pulled back. The world's begun to see now exactly what they were supporting, the way they have – the way they released the hostages, the decisions to surround a female hostage scared to death with 1,000 men and guns. And we're supposed to allow that to continue like next door? What's your town next door? Well, where do you live? Next door. What's your next door town?
Yeah, I live near West Palm Beach. Yeah.
All right. So the town next door wants to kill you, rape your wife, burn
right.
you, behead you, and they're living like right across 95 on the other side.
Right, they're right there.
Town.
That's what people don't understand. Gaza's right there. It's not like it's like 200-300 miles away. It's right there. It's right there.
And you know what, Dan, you want to dream? Just dream for a second, okay? Let's just say they're able to relocate these people to get started in a more normal society somewhere, throughout the world. And they go in there and they really clean the place up, and they got a chance to create an Abu Dhabi and a Singapore, an amazing place. And then there's going to be so much come back, and there'll be tremendous Arab wealth. There'll be wealth from all over the world. They're going to be able to rebuild that. And again, the jobs that are going to be created, the revenue that's going to be created, it could all then get back into helping some of the people that had to get relocated. Funds will be created to help them as revenues increase. And again, I just think Lebanon's next. Who's next? Yeah. Syria. What do you want? What do you want? Do you want what maybe could happen in Gaza and some sort of a rebuild, or are you going to hold on to these crazy Islamic extremist, beliefs that are just simply not good for the peace and prosperity of people?
Coach, I'll end on a lighter note, talking to Coach Bruce Pearl of the Auburn Tigers. You're the number one team in the nation. I got about a minute left, and the computer will cut us off. But obviously going into the tournament, that's a lock. I mean, you could lose every game. I know you don't plan on, however. But, last year obviously was a little bit of a disappointment. You still have a lot of the guys around. You had a great team last year. And are you reminding the guys, is this why you haven't had any significant letdowns? I mean, the Duke game, it was what it was, but you guys have not had a letdown. Are you telling the guys every day, like, hey, man, remember what happened last year? Like, we had a great team too. Like, is that why this year they've been so laser focused? Or at least is it a little part of it?
I'm sure it's part of it, but it's nothing I need to tell them. We all lived it. We all went through it. And look, we got, for the listeners, that we got upset in a 4-13 matchup by Yale, but Yale played great. And I always give Yale that kind of credit. Now, I wanted to beat Yale's ass because I want to come out after the game and talk about their ridiculous education in the Ivy League and all the protests. But I didn't get that opportunity because we got our asses beat. But our guys, we respect our opponent. We fear nobody. I'm proud of our league. The SEC, it just means more. And I'm so glad that the Bongino family is able to be part of this War Damn Eagle and this Auburn family. And I just apologize. I apologize for the stress that our friendship is putting. You're under enough stress, my friend. Saving the world from these lunatics.
I know. You guys, though, you guys have made – no, thank you. But you guys have really made my life – to watch, I don't want to get all emotional with you because I do have to run, but to watch my youngest daughter, who you met, Amelia, at the game, when Miles hit that three-pointer with just 20 seconds to go, jump into my arms and just like, Daddy, Coach, I know sports and with these hard, it seems like a frivolous matter with all these things, but it's not. It's a way for us to collectively bond and get away and share a common experience. And I want to thank you for everything. I love Auburn. It is the just most amazing school. It's such a family, and you're the best coach in the nation. Good luck the rest of the season going forward. I'll be watching the Florida game on Saturday, and thanks for coming on today.
Okay. Great to be with you again, Dan.
You got it. Coach Bruce Pearl, real patriot, folks. Man, there's a lot. We got a lot in that interview. Let's get to our next sponsor. Hey, I used to wake up exhausted, feeling like I was way behind because I was sleeping terribly. I don't know if you've noticed, but for the last 2 years, the show's been a little more energetic. Sometimes to some people's chagrin. It's because I'm sleeping great. Beam's Dream Powder works for me. It's founded in America, run by people who share our values, hard work, integrity, and results. Like, that's it, results. It's a science-backed, healthy nighttime blend packed with ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed, ready to take on the day. Dream is made with a powerful, all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. Beam has helped improve over 17.5 million nights of sleep, helping people across the country wake up, feel their best. Here's the deal. Beam's giving Bongino Show listeners the ultimate Patriot discount of 47% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 47% off for a limited time. I like that, 47. Go to shopbeam.com/Bongino. Use code Bongino at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/Bongino. And use code Bongino for up to 47% off. Support an American company. Invest in yourself. Get the best night's sleep of your night tonight. Check it out. Beam. Thank you, Beam. So you asked for it, the segment on life hacks. Here are all my tricks, post-cancer, arthritis, all the other crap I'm dealing with to try and stay young. I haven't got more feedback on a radio segment ever. Thinking about maybe a health and fitness podcast later. So here it is. Check it out. So I committed myself to health and fitness years ago, but I really doubled down on it after I had recovered from the cancer treatment and said, I'm not taking any more chances. Folks, it's simply not worth it to me anymore to live an unhealthy lifestyle. I've got 2 daughters. I want to see them get married, and I want to hug my grandkids. I just do. So this isn't like a cutesy time thing. So we got into these life hack things because Bobby Kennedy's a pretty healthy guy. I mean, Bobby Kennedy's not young. He's got, 20 years on me. And he looks amazing. I mean, he just does. And there's a way you can do that too. And I'm not going to tell you it's not hard, but I'm going to tell you it's not hard. You know what's hard? Figuring out complex physics equations if you don't have the IQ for it. That's hard. I was never a physicist, okay? The only reason these life hacks are hard is because people just don't want to do them. Now, the reason I've never done this segment before is because when I tell you everything I did and everything I do pretty much every day outside of Sunday morning, when I take a break from my routine, I don't like to say it because everybody goes, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. Then don't. I'm just telling you what I do. So let me go through. I get up in the morning between 5:45 and 6. Sometimes the alarm goes off, sometimes it doesn't. The first thing I do is I use a hydrogen water generator. I like the Echo. There are tons of them out there. Look it up. They're not a sponsor or anything like that. But I use a hydrogen water generator. I don't have time to focus on any one thing specifically. Hydrogen water has been great for me. It basically splits the H2O portion up. You get some hydrogen ions, and it helps me a lot. I also use deuterium depleted water. I use a company called Lightwater, Lite. It's not cheap, but there's some evidence I've read about its effect on cancer. So I put a big thing of deuterium depleted water in the hydrogen Echo thing. I get some hydrogen water, and I make a little mini protein shake about maybe 10 minutes after I get up. I don't have coffee right away. I wait about 2 hours. There's a lot of evidence that waiting is better. I do it, works for me. Some of you can't get up without it. Trust me, you can. Just try. So I put whey protein in there. I use a few different kinds. I recommend that you get what you pay for. Use a crappy whey protein, and you're going to get a lot of heavy metals. So I'm not going to recommend to you a specific product, but I'm telling you right now, you pretty much get what you pay for. I mix whey protein with blueberry extract, some cacao powder. Cacao, it's not cocoa, it's cacao. It's a really, really potent polyphenol. I mix that with some pomegranate extract and some electrolytes. You can use Liquid IV, there's Relight, there's all kinds of them. The blueberry extract is just ground up blueberries in a powder. You can find it on, wherever you shop, Walmart, Amazon. I mix it all together. Does it taste great? It tastes okay. I don't really care. I'm not into tasting great. I'm into not getting dead. I guzzle that down, the hydrogen water, and then I go back into the bed for a few minutes. I lay down, I do my affirmations, take about a half an hour, I chill. I then get up and get sunlight in my eyes right away. Big mistake if you're not doing it. I don't have time. Find it. You need 10 minutes. You don't have 10 minutes? I promise you'll find it. I got a busy schedule. Find 10 minutes. Go outside. Take your shoes off. Don't step on any nails. Go find yourself some grass. Stand in it for 10 minutes and get some photons in your eyes. Don't stare at the sun. It'll blind you. Stare at the horizon, but get the light in your eyes. It'll reset all of the melatonin systems and sleep systems in your body, and it'll get you back on a good, solid circadian rhythm. Do it. You neglect it, the rest of this stuff doesn't matter. Then I jump in the cold plunge. Unfortunately, producer Jim is there spying on me every morning. This is him. That's his video evidence. That is me screaming every morning. It's kind of weird because I jump in there naked. I don't know what Jim is up to. It's kind of freaky. Mike has really counseled him to not do that. But I jump in for 3.5 minutes at 47 degrees. Listen, man, I'm serious when I say this. You better check with your doctor before you do any of this stuff because it is a shock. It never feels any better. It hurts like a It's not fun. I'm just telling you, I have a serious problem and have my entire life with depression and the black cloud. It runs in my family. I've spoken about it before. I'm not shy about it. I don't take any pharmaceuticals at all for that. The one thing that cleans it up every day is the cold plunge. Jim, turn on your mic a second. Can you tell when I'm on the show and I haven't done the cold plunge?
Yeah, I think I can.
You can. So, I know because you said to me, did you not cold plunge? Because I'm usually depressed and I've got to have a couple extra cups of coffee. All right. I get out of the cold plunge and I work out. I do cardio. I do the arc trainer. I do about 15 minutes. I do not go crazy on the cardio machine anymore. My joints can't take it. But I do it with an oxygen machine. You do? Yes, I do. But that sounds weird. I don't care if it sounds weird. I'm just telling you what it is. I put the nose cannula on. I've got an O2 generator. I forget what the Elevate O2, I think the machine is called. It ain't cheap, but it's not like buying a car. And I do about 15 minutes of cardio with oxygen. Wakes me up, okay? I then lift weights. How many days a week? I go 6. You probably don't need 6. I alternate upper body, lower body. Very simple. That's my split. Upper body, back, chest, shoulders, deltoids, traps, all of it. It takes me about a half an hour. I don't do a ton of sets. I do about 25 sets total. Upper, lower, every single day. When I'm done with all of that, I'd use an inversion table. I have a Teeter. They were a sponsor years ago. They're not anymore, but I still have the inversion table. It's literally an inversion table. You hang upside down. Takes the load off my spine. It's not for everyone. I use it after the cold plunge. Kind of helps get some blood flow to my brain. gets me going for the day because I got to come on the air frosty every day. I don't have the opportunity here to come here and take a day off and go, you know what? I'm just going to take calls. It's not the way any of this works. I owe you a show every single day. When I'm done with that, I do my special concoction protein powder, which I always make the night before. The reason is I put it in a blender and too much air gets in there. So if you don't make it the night before, you're going to be drinking a lot of air. And you can only imagine what happens on the air when you do that. So I make it the night before. I recommend you do too. Here's my concoction, okay? I use whole milk. I don't use any of this skim crap, okay? I put in more whey protein, about 3 or 4 scoops, so it's a little thick. I put in the blueberry powder and the pomegranate powder again, although it's a little less effective in a dairy base because of the polyphenols, but I throw it in anyway. I break open a probiotic capsule. Floragen, Nella makes good ones. I mix it in there at night. Let those good probiotics fester in there. I put a little bit of psyllium husks in there. It's kind of a prebiotic. The bacteria feed on all this stuff. I mix in some cinnamon. I use Ceylon cinnamon. Highly recommended. Better kind. I put in some Armra colostrum in there. Full disclosure, they are a sponsor. It has nothing to do with this. I've been using the product a long time. I put 3 scoops of that. I also put creatine. If you're not taking creatine and you're interested in health hacks, I strongly encourage you to look it up. Creatine, isn't that from years ago? Yeah, the reason people still use it is because it works, okay? I use a micronized creatine. That's my blend. Mix all that up in a blender. I throw some frozen blueberries in there. I use organic stuff. That's up to you. I let it sit overnight. I then drink that. I give it about an hour, jump in the shower, do my thing, whatever. I come out. I have a big glass of green tea. I do not use tea bags. I don't want the microplastics. How do you do it? I buy organic green tea leaves and I throw them in hot water. And you know what I do? I strain them out. I don't put tea bags in my hot water. I don't want the microplastics. I don't think you should either. I mix in some Dose, D-O-S-E. It's a curcumin ginger blend. Takes care of my liver. I mix that up with some Field of Greens from Brick House. Again, a sponsor, but a product I've been using for a while. I drink that. I then take a little bit of nattokinase, go to work, do my job. Wrapping this up, I come home at night, I eat dinner. What do I eat for dinner? I eat the same thing every night. I have one of these 3 meats, salmon, lean chicken, or steak. That's it. I don't eat anything else. I'm not interested in if it tastes good. I don't care. I just want to live. I've stayed ridiculously lean. I've got a six-pack of abs at 50 years old. Ask Paula, she'll tell you. I don't care what you think. I'm just telling you the truth because I eat the same damn thing. I eat that and I eat a salad. What goes in the salad? Avocado. I put arugula in there. I put shredded carrots, tomatoes. What else is in there? Onions, very important. I put a little bit of shredded garlic. There's beets. And then I mix some really good extra virgin olive oil and balsamic. And that's what I eat every single night. And when I'm done, I have a bag of these mixed nuts. I just get them from my Planters or whatever. And I just down the bag of mixed nuts as well. And finally, I take fish oil, a ton of it, like a lot of it, like an unusual amount of fish oil. I take about 4 pills of it, a ton of different good products. Carlson makes a good one. Biotest makes a good one. Flame Out, another great fish oil product. And then at night, I'll typically take zinc, magnesium, aspartate to go to sleep, apigenin. Those are all really great products. I've told you to look them up in the past. And I sleep like a baby for a 50-year-old guy. I sleep about 9 hours a night. That's crazy. My friend brags about sleeping 4 hours a night. Your friend's an idiot, okay? I'm sorry. You're sleeping 4 hours a night. You're half the person you should be. Go look up the link between sleep problems, diabetes, metabolic disorders, Alzheimer's disease. Then get back to me. Go to sleep. There's nothing to brag about, okay? Some people are genetically, I don't care. Get to sleep. Deep sleep. Clean your brain out. I'm serious. There are some people who are like superhuman and can do it. I promise you. The majority of people out there, that's not you. Go to sleep. There's nothing to brag about. Okay, there's my life hacks. I hope you enjoyed it. For those who don't think it was TMI, great, but I hope you wrote all that down. Finally, one more. Got a ton of feedback on this viral TikTok video we pushed on the Dan Bongino TikTok page about the income tax and how it would work if we got rid of it. So here it is. Folks, this is one of the most important economic minute and 30 plus seconds you're going to hear. Jim, cue up for me, cut 5. I really enjoy this guy's commentary. His name is Peter St. Onge, O-N-G-E. I highly recommend you follow him on X. He does these videos. They're nice and short. They're not 20-minute TED Talks. They're basically 3 to 4 minute videos on economics. And everything I tell you about in economics, he addresses at some point. I have this Social Security video he did. I'm going to try to get to it next week, but basically explains to you everything I've been saying when I get all the hate mail. When I tell you there's no money in Social Security, I mean it in a literal sense. There is no money. There's no such thing as a trust fund. It's fake, okay? It is a bunch of IOUs. That's not this video because I don't want to deal with the hate and people who tell me, oh, no, there is. There's no money there, okay? I'm not, that's just a fact. The government stole it from you and spent it. I wish that wasn't the case. We'll take care of you. I'm just telling you they stole and spent it. But he has this minute 30 plus video here about the most serious economic proposal that'll come out of any White House. I mean, Jim, I would debate since the Reagan tax cuts in the mid 80s. This is significant. There is now very serious talk about potentially eliminating the income tax altogether. The fact that that's even being mentioned in D.C., which was, by the way, heresy for swampy Republicans and Democrats to even talk about, is such hardcore concrete evidence of the messaging power of Donald Trump that he can break through all this, that I don't know what it is. But here he is, St. Onge, talking about what would happen if we were to exchange an income tax. Basically, you'd work and take home all your money in exchange for a tax on imports into the country, what we would call tariffs. I'll give you the math behind it afterwards, but this could be the single most powerful economic idea. Our economy would explode. I'll bet we would see 5 to 10% growth, which is crazy for an advanced economy. Check this out.
Donald Trump is doubling down on completely repealing the income tax, replacing it with tariffs on foreigners. The left, who uses the income tax to suck the blood from the American people on behalf of giant corporations and pink-haired child mutilators, are popping their little heads. Now, during the campaign, Trump had repeatedly mused, what if we just get rid of the income tax and abolish the IRS? The left was not taking him seriously because, like politicians say all kinds of stuff when they're trying to get elected. But now, with the election safely under his belt, Trump is not letting it go. In fact, he's doubling down. In an address to a major GOP policy retreat in Florida, Trump ran through the history of the tariff, how America was much richer as a country when we funded the federal government not off the blood, sweat, and tears of the American people, but off foreigners in the form of tariffs. Of course, that golden age ended in 1913 with the left's victorious imposition of an income tax that was originally promised as only hitting the top 1%, but today, of course, hits everybody. Now, I've talked about the tariffs for income tax trade-off, but in short, if you get rid of the income tax and replace it with tariffs, you're looking at a $1.5 trillion net decline in federal taxes, so you would need Elon's Doge to cut spending. In return, you would massively raise income, raise economic growth, and lower inflation. I've estimated the average American household would see something like a $30,000 rise in annual income. It's about 40%. And it comes to about $2,500 per month. About half of that would come from the taxes you no longer pay, the other half from higher economic growth, since we would no longer be taxing work or entrepreneurship.
Folks, this is a brilliant minute and 40 seconds, whatever it was. When you tax something, you get less of it. Let's just put out some truths to begin with, okay? This is a fact. It is not a jump in logic or a leap in reason. If you were to tax something, you would get more of it. I mean, less of it, excuse me. That is the entire purpose of the field of accounting. The reason people use accountants who make a significant amount of money and pay taxes is because they use accountants to engage in what we would call tax avoidance. Isn't that a crime? No, it isn't. No, it isn't. Tax evasion is a crime. That tax evasion is absolutely a crime. If producer Jim is forced to pay a Dan Bongino Show producer tax, however much you hate it, and he doesn't pay it, yes, there's a possibility Jim could be arrested. However, if there is another tax and an accountant says, you know, Jim, do you have a specific write-off for investments you made into audio gear to process Dan Bongino's audio content, right? So we can get you to pay less taxes because by law you can write that off. That is avoiding taxes, correct? Tax avoidance? Is that tax evasion? It is not. It is perfectly legal. Tax avoidance is a national pastime. Tax evasion is a crime. All of that would go away because it would be no taxes for you to avoid. Now you have to ask yourself, if this were to lead, as St. Ange says here, for the average, say, upper middle income family, he says 30, say it's $20,000 extra dollars a year. 20,000. Do you have any idea how much money that is? There are people out there, that's their entire rent. There are people out there, that's your car payment and then some. 20,000, where does it go? You know, one of the things I try to explain to stupid liberals about economics all the time is that cutting people's taxes, unironically, has typically led to a dramatic increase in government revenue. No, you got that backwards. No, I don't. Go and look it up. Look up the Bush tax cuts, the Trump tax cuts, the Reagan tax cuts. And what you will see is government revenue has continued to go up. I thought they cut taxes. They did. So how does the government get even richer? Not that that's the goal, but it happens. How does it happen? Because, folks, when you stick into people's pockets 15 and 20,000 extra dollars, where does it all go? They don't burn it underneath the bed, you liberal dumbasses. They go out if they're a barber and they hire an extra barber. And that extra barber goes and buys scissors made of steel, some of it which is imported. Those imported steel scissors, the company that imports them is going to have to pay a tariff on the imported product from overseas. What else do? They buy an extra razor. The razor company buys more steel. The steel company then has to buy more energy from American companies because American companies are using so much energy, they may have to import some oil or petrochemicals, of which these foreign companies will pay a tariff. If you understand basic capital flows and taxes, you'll realize that when we tax an economy that's prosperous, you would rather 10% of a $10 trillion economy than 20% of a $2 trillion economy. It's not complicated. It's called freaking math. Liberals cannot get this through their heads because they don't want to. When Ronald Reagan cut the top tax rate from 70 to 28%, please look this up. I'm begging you because it'll make you look like a dumbass and me look a lot smarter if you fact check me. When Reagan cut the top tax rate on those evil rich people you hate, liberals, from 70 to 28%, that's less than half percentage point basis. Right? What happened to government revenue? And what happened to the rich people paying the majority of the government revenue? The answer is government revenue nearly doubled from about $500 billion to $909 billion when Reagan left office. No, look it up, dumbass. Oh, look, I'm looking it up. Dan Bongino's right. I am a dumbass. I know, I just told you that. I could have saved you the work. And what happened to the percentage of taxes paid by the richest 20%? Surely it went down, right? No, dumbass, it went up. It did. Yes, because rich people got really rich. I know you hate that. And what did they do? They paid more taxes. That's so crazy. That's so crazy. Why am I so stupid? Because you're a liberal. That's why you're so stupid. I helped you out. You don't have to look that up. Am I telling you tax cuts always cause government revenue to go up? I'm not. Am I telling you that the last three significant tax cuts, Donald Trump, George W., and Ronald Reagan, led to significant increase in government revenue? I am. Am I telling you you can actually look that up yourself if you weren't such a liberal crazy person and you'd see I'm right? That's what I'm telling you. There's an article in the Washington Times. Look it up. You ready? Here, write this down. Don Dwyer. D-W-Y-E-R. It's from the Washington Times. I used to show it to liberals all the time. Put Don Dwyer, Washington Times, Bush tax cuts. You see it? Oh, yeah, look, there it is. Go about 5-6 paragraphs down. where he shows you that after the Bush tax cuts, the government had one of the largest increases in government revenue in American history. They did. Oh my God. That's so crazy. It's like I've been a dumbass the whole time as a liberal. I didn't know that. Yeah, you are. You're really stupid. I'm sorry. Here's the crazy thing. I don't want the government to raise more revenue because they'll spend it on crap and ruin people's lives. I don't. I'm not proud of the fact that tax cuts make the government richer too. I'm just telling you that's what is. So if you're a liberal, the greatest thing you can do, probability-wise, is to actually cut people's taxes because you've got a greater chance of a growing economy. And even with a smaller percentage piece, the pie is so much bigger, you actually benefit too. But you're too freaking stupid to figure it out. What St. Onge is talking about here would be the single most impactful tax policy probably in the United States history. Now, there is an issue. The issue is there would be probably a pretty immediate shortfall. I get it. Dan, you just said I don't want the government raising a lot of money. I don't. But I don't want seniors on Social Security screwed over. It's not their fault the government wasted all their money. We still have to fund our military, and we damn well better pay the interest on the debt or no one's going to lend us money ever again. It's liberals and swampy Republicans too, got us into a lot of debt. We are America. We got to take care of our debt. I'm not going to let a bunch of seniors die because they paid into this program and the government stole it. But if we could graduate this out slowly and get rid of the income tax and work on a tariff program instead, you would have a raging economy. But here are some numbers just so you understand the math problem we're dealing with. It's from the Wall Street Journal. It's an interesting article. I encourage you to read it. It's called How Much Do Tariffs Matter? Don Luskin wrote it. Folks, the income base we tax in the country, the total amount of income we tax to get our money, is about $25.079 trillion. It's a lot of money. The entire value of imports coming into the country we could tariff is only $3.2 trillion. So you're talking about a fraction of it. So it'd have to be some pretty heavy tariffs. I'm just here to give you the truth, okay? I love economics. I think this could be the single most impactful idea to explode this economy like we've never seen before. But we've got to be prepared for the math. We can't be like stupid liberals, okay? There's going to be some serious dislocation in the beginning. But it's a serious idea, and I think we should consider it. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Be sure to check us out every day at 11 a.m., rumble.com/Bongino every weekday. The radio show's live at 12 noon. You can check it out at Bongino.com station finder if you want to find a station near you. Please give us a follow on Rumble, Apple Podcasts.